It's been a very active and interesting week in the tool world, and it all revolves around Milwaukee. We're going to talk about a couple of things that have been extremely interesting and has come with some drama. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the Milwaukee M18 half-inch cordless impact. The part number on this one is 2767-20, and it's an important designation to make. The -20 version of this tool is the bare tool. It does not come with any other accessories. It does not come with batteries or a charger. It is the bare tool only, as opposed to the 2767-22, which is the kit that comes with 2 batteries. Milwaukee got the idea a few months ago to redesign some internals on this impact. As a result, it's been a disaster. They have 3 pins that hold planetary gears that drive the impact mechanism, and those pins are shearing a lot of times upon first use, but very shortly after they're unboxed, they're breaking. And Milwaukee has fessed up to the problems that this has caused, and they are in the process of replacing all the 2767-20 versions of this tool with the older, more reliable version. And the versions are designated by the first 4 digits in this serial number. They begin with H96, and the older good versions are followed by an A, and the crappy new versions are a B. So H96A are the good ones, H96B are the bad ones. And again, these only affected the bare tool packaged version of this tool. So right now, all the tools are being pulled from distributors' warehouses and store shelves, being returned to Milwaukee, and they are replacing them with the good old version. Now, I have this information on very good authority from a fantastic YouTuber called Torque Test Channel. If you have not seen his videos, please watch his stuff, subscribe to his channel. He does fantastic apples to apples comparisons with many different tools and many different brands. And he really does great deep dives into information like this. And I got most of my information on this from him. And if you look at the video he shot on this, it very plainly breaks down all the troubles with this tool and the steps that he took in conjunction with Milwaukee to pull everything out into the light, talk about it, get the information, and ultimately get this resolution. And on this past Friday, October 7th, 2022, they did a live stream where they revealed this letter they got from Milwaukee, which is their official statement regarding the whole incident. He posted it on the video that I'll leave a link to in the description in its entirety. I called Milwaukee myself to ask if I could get a copy of this release, and they said they didn't have them available, which I thought was odd. I was told that I had to go through my distributor to get it, but I had called my distributor 2 days before to ask them about this particular issue because I was concerned about buying the wrong ones and having problems and then giving them to customers and then having them all come back and just have a crap show on my hands. So I called my distributor and I said, hey, A, are you aware of the problem? And B, what do we do about it? And my account rep said, I know nothing about this issue. Well, that really surprised me, which means it has not been communicated well, either from Milwaukee or through the internal channels within the distributors. So something fell down here horribly when it comes to communicating these problems. So I'm going to follow up with my account rep during the week and find out what steps they have taken in compliance with what Milwaukee's mandates are for pulling the old stuff from the warehouses and off the store shelves. So there will be more to follow on this. But in the meantime, we can dig a little bit into this. I'm going to share with you the statement that Milwaukee shared with Torque Test Channel, and certainly, by all means, go to his channel and check this out. I'm not plagiarizing his stuff or anything. I want you to patronize his channel because it's outstanding information. And I don't know, honestly, how this would have been resolved if he didn't get as involved as he did with Milwaukee. My understanding, based on the first video he did, is he's got some clout and some credibility in the tool world, and he was one of the driving forces in getting this resolved. So I don't think Torque Test Channel watches my channel at all, but I don't think he knows I exist. But hey, if you do and you'd like to leave a comment or chime in, or even better, if you want to, join me sometime on a live stream, we can talk about it or what. I would love the opportunity to talk with you more about it, Torque Test Channel, and maybe at least we can correspond by email or something. But anyway, I'll share with you the statement that Milwaukee sent to Torque Test Channel after they fessed up to the whole incident. I'm going to read it in part. I'm not going to read the whole thing because some of it's just not germane to this particular issue. So the official statement reads, "We have recently learned that a number of users are experiencing issues with their 2767-20 half-inch high-torque impact wrench with friction ring and quickly launched an in-depth investigation to understand the claims. Upon investigation, 2 distinct issues were uncovered. We recently implemented a new mechanical design in the model 2767-20. This new design is distinguished by H96B in the serial code. This new design has not held up to the Milwaukee name and will no longer be sold. Our developmental testing of this mechanism did not reveal the symptoms described by users." Stop. What? How did any internal testing not uncover this issue? That blows me away. Clearly, something is wrong internally with Milwaukee. One of them is that they redesigned something that worked perfectly good. Hey, if it's broken, fix it. But if it's not broken, don't fix it. And they decided to redesign this in the first place. Before any product comes to market, it has to go through some kind of quality control and testing, which this clearly did not do. Because if people are taking these things out of the box and hitting it once and it breaks, there is very simple testing you can do to your product to see if that will in fact be a problem. You take it out of the box and you try it. Clearly, they didn't stress test this, and they did not push it to its limits to see where it would break and see what the duty cycles on this would be, which is what you do when you test a product. So something happened internally to Milwaukee on this that is really sketchy. But anyway, the statement continues. "But the feedback is clear, and our decision to replace the product is ultimately the right thing to do for them," meaning their customers. "We will continue to produce the original design that has been on the market for years, that is distinguished by H96A in the serial code. We will immediately stop production of the new design, distinguished H96B in the serial code." And then it goes on to some unrelated things about some stutter and some hesitation they had in the electronics of it. And then there were some questions that they asked, that they answered in anticipation of this coming out. And what they said, and this is an important distinction, the only product affected is a 2767-20 in bare tool packaging, distinguished by the H96B in the serial code. So their kits that contain batteries and chargers apparently were not affected by this. It was just the bare tool product itself. And they go on to say that these products are being sent back to Milwaukee and will be replaced with inventory of H96A by November 1st. And that's 3 weeks from now because it's, I'm recording this on October 8th, 2022. So in a few weeks, everything should be back to normal and resolved. And the idea going forward is if a customer does have the bad one and they experience problems, they send it in for warranty and they'll get it replaced because Milwaukee does say that they will be replacing any ones that come in with the H96B designation with the H96A designation. So egg on your face, Milwaukee. Shame on you for changing a perfectly good design. 1. Shame on you for not testing it properly. That's 2. But at least you had the good judgment to own up to the problem fairly quickly and make it right in, I think, a rather definitive way. The only thing that would make it better is if they did a recall on them or if they sent out replacement units to customers. But I understand the logistics of that and the costs involved. It's not feasible. As much as I would like to see Milwaukee actually get ahead of this problem, instead they have a reactionary stance on this, and I get it, but I'd like to see them get ahead of any units that have been sold so that customers are not put in the inconvenient position of having to send their stuff in for replacement. But anyway, take the wins where we can get them on this one. I think that Milwaukee's ultimately doing the right thing, and I have a terrific amount of respect for Milwaukee, as you've seen in plenty of my other videos. This does not taint my opinion of them. I suspect that there's been some internal changes going on. I suspect that they made this change to the tool for cost reduction reasons, or maybe they wanted to gain some efficiencies. That's usually the driver of these things, because clearly it didn't make the tool any better. It didn't make people happier. They didn't get more satisfied customers out of it. And I know that, reading some stuff that I've been reading online and such, some people are going to be driven away from the brand because of this. And that's normal. And there's going to be some loss of the market share because of this. But for fanboys and like myself, admittedly, it kind of bolsters your respect for a company that did not handle it like I know a lot of corporations handle these things. They try to spin it. They try to make it seem like it's not as bad as it is. And they try to lay a cover story, and they kind of tap dance around it. And then they quietly introduce some kind of corrective measure. But Milwaukee fessed right up to this right out of the gate. I like that about them. And they said, we're going to make it right, and here's what we're going to do. And we're pulling all the old stuff and replacing with pulling all the new stuff and replacing with the old stuff. And I like that about them. So good on Torque Test channel. Thank you very much, guys, for your involvement in this. And I don't know to what degree you affected the outcome, but man, you went to bat for the rest of us. And you have my gratitude, and I'm sure the gratitude of many, many other people. You got a good subscriber base going on your channel. And please keep up your good work. And for any of you folks that have not seen their channel or subscribed, please do, because they deserve the support when they keep doing the good work that they're doing there. So thanks very much, Torque Test channel, again. I appreciate that on behalf of all my customers, and certainly from my distributor, who apparently didn't even know about this. You did a great service for the whole tool world, particularly retailers like myself and distributors. Now, related to Milwaukee is the fact that they are now a distributor. Sorry, they are now distributing their tools to Matco. Matco has become a Milwaukee distributor. And you've seen me post something about this on my Instagram page. And I alluded in another video that we're going to do this video to dive a little deeper into why that is, because that kind of set the tool world on its ear when Matco made that announcement. It started out as a rumor about a week or so ago, and then they finally made the official announcement just a couple of days ago. And there's not a whole lot of information that I see coming out from Matco on this yet, other than the official announcement. And it was a very brief announcement. It was really just a graphic with a 1 or 2 sentence thing saying that they're partnering with Milwaukee. Now, a partnership is usually defined by two parties that are sharing some kind of cost and liability to do something in conjunction with each other. That I don't think that's the case with this, though. Usually in a partnership like this, you'd expect there to be some kind of maybe engineering help that Matco gives to Milwaukee to develop tools for them and their larger market, and Milwaukee would be sharing in that cost and liability. I don't think that's the case here. I think this is a strict distributorship where Matco is just saying to Milwaukee, hey, we'd like to buy your tools and be an official distributor for you. And Milwaukee says, okay, and they sell them a bunch of tools. So you're going to start seeing Milwaukee tools on Matco trucks. I don't know what the time frame is for this. And I think it's a smart move for Matco, even at face value, because Milwaukee has a humongous market share with the same customers that Matco serves. Anecdotally, I can tell you that I don't see very many Matco power tools in shops at all. The brands I mostly see are for cordless power tools anyway. Here's a different story. I can talk about air tools, but for the cordless power tools, it's mainly Snap-on and Milwaukee. That's really it. There's some DeWalt, not a whole lot. That tends to be more popular in other sectors of different industries. There's not a lot of Mac, which are really just repackaged DeWalt tools, because DeWalt and Mac are owned by Stanley, and the Mac branded tools are made in the DeWalt factories, and they're made to the same specs or the same internals. They just put a different color case on them and ship them with the Mac name on them. In fact, the Mac batteries say right on them, powered by DeWalt, and you can interchange the DeWalt battery with a Mac tool. So those are all kind of their own thing. I don't see a whole lot of them. It's all Milwaukee and Snap-on as far as cordless power tools go. So it doesn't surprise me that Matco decided they needed to play bigger in that space, because Cornwell has had Milwaukee as their power tool line for many years. And I was stoked when I became an independent tool retailer to finally carry Milwaukee, because I could see how this trend was developing quickly. And I really wanted to jump on that bandwagon. Glad I did, because Milwaukee is now my primary power tool line, and it's been very good for us. So I'm very happy to be retailing their stuff as well. So from that perspective, I think Matco made a smart move. So you may be thinking, well, good on Matco, they made a good move, it's good for their customers and all. But they would not have made the move unless they were compelled to, because you just don't make a decision like this on a whim. And in trying to understand why they would make such a decision, I did some digging, and I found a few things, and there's plenty more to learn, but the first two things I learned are fairly significant, and I thought it would be worth sharing. First is that Matco's parent company is a company called Vontier, and a couple of years ago, Vontier purchased Matco after it was sold off by Matco's former parent company, a company called Fortive. And Vontier seems to be a smaller company. They don't have as many brands under their belt that Fortive did. And Vontier owns other brands, not many. They own Gilbarco, Veeder-Root, Teletrac, Navman, and a couple of others. Matco's one of them. And let me get the date for you so I don't give you bad information. In September of 2020, Vontier went public with their stock. And when they went public, they did it with an offering price of $34 per share. Okay. Today, 2 years later, when the market closed on Friday, October 7th, 2022, they closed at $17 per share. I'll show you the chart here. Take a look. That is, by any measure, bad. You don't have to know how to read a stock chart to see that Vontier stock is going in absolutely the wrong direction. And when something like that happens, companies get nervous, and they need to know how to right this ship. One of the ways you're going to do that is to cut costs and simultaneously increase their profits. So in wondering why, I have seen a huge increase in Matco prices over the past year or so. This is one indicator. And it will drive the strategic decision to forklift out their own branded power tools in favor of saving some money and buying Milwaukee tools. It's a turnkey solution. Why wouldn't you? They're great tools. Milwaukee has it all over Matco in price, availability, and in warranty. So there's going to be cost reductions there. Now, why are cost reductions so important? Well, the reason they're important is because if you look at Vontier's financial situation, it's not good. And I'll show you a screenshot here that shows since 2020, their revenues are down $2.7 billion. Their net income is down $342 million. And their total equity is down $187 million. That's a company in trouble. And they're getting desperate, I believe, in trying to find ways to stay afloat. Because if things continue the way they're continuing, they're going to have to sell off their assets and probably sell off Matco to some other company. And why Fortive was interested in selling them in the first place, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. My research hasn't gone back that far yet. But that's very telling that, number one, Fortive would be interested in getting rid of them because if Matco was really good for Fortive's bottom line, Fortive would still own them. So instead, they sell them off to Vontier, and Vontier's having all kinds of troubles, and they need to figure things out. And I don't know how big part of their particular business Matco is, but I'm guessing it's significant. So I'm sure they're doing other corrective measures here, but one of them is that they're targeting Matco to see if they can get them to be more productive, more profitable for them. So that's the other reason. Now, one other thing that happened that is an additional expense to Vontier, because it was an expense incurred by Matco, was that Matco was sued in a class action lawsuit 2 years ago, and it just settled this past May in California. And as far as I understand, the lawsuit was restricted just to California because it violated California labor laws. And I'll read to you from a couple of different websites that have published information on this. The first one is from lawyersandsettlements.com, and they talk about why the suit came to be and who sued them and why. And it breaks it down to some very interesting detail. I'd love just to dive more into it, but we can only go on what's been published, and stuff like this doesn't make the big news. You're going to find it mostly in trade journals and stuff. So you see on things like, websites and publications that are made for lawyers and people interested in lawsuits and stuff. So they don't always dive as deep as you'd like, but still, this is very telling. And what they say is that on April 29th, the Northern District of California granted final approval to a $15.8 million settlement in a class action California labor lawsuit brought by 273 franchisees who claimed that Matco Tools classified them as independent contractors to avoid paying overtime, reimbursing expenses, and providing accurate wage settlements. Stop. That's very interesting to me. I don't know, apparently, I know less than I thought about how Matco structures their deals with their franchisees. If you own a franchise, you own your own business, and you buy the rights to operate a franchise that from another company. So any franchise company at all, like for me, I established Coyle Tools, and when I first started, Coyle Tools bought into a Mac franchise system. If you look at like Dunkin' Donuts or Subway restaurants or any of these other franchises, there's a company underneath that, and that company then purchases the rights to the franchise, and they get the use of their name and their products and all the rest of it. So I don't understand how there could even be any confusion or angst with the plaintiffs in this case to say that they weren't paid overtime, they weren't reimbursed expenses, and they weren't provided accurate wage statements. Because as far as I knew, that's not how franchises work. Mine didn't work that way when I owned one. And this, again, because this is specific to California, maybe they've got some things in their labor laws there that I'm not aware of. But this seems weird to me. But the suit settled. And it goes on to say the deal includes a $13.5 million cash payment. Distributors who terminated their distributorships on or before September 8th, 2021 may also share in a fund that provides $2.3 million in debt relief. Each class member, that's each person, is expected to receive nearly $35,000 in cash. The net total value for those also entitled to debt relief will be roughly $42,000 per person. That's significant. The company has also agreed to amend its distributorship agreement to give further rights for continuing distributors. These will include the right to sell non-Matco products that do not compete with the company's own products. The suit was brought about by a franchisee named John Fleming in 2021. He alleged at the time, among other things, that he worked roughly 20 hours of overtime each week. I don't get that. I mean, when you own your own business, you work the hours you work. So I don't know if there was some arrangement that some franchisees had with Matco where Matco is paying them. I don't understand how that works. So again, if you're a Matco franchisee, or if you were, please share that information. I am so insanely curious right now to know how this all works, because he also leveled the complaint against Matco that the franchisees had to pay an initial fee to Matco. Well, yeah, I mean, that's called a franchise fee, I thought. That they distribute only approved Matco brands using the Matco system. I also thought that was part of the agreement when you went to a franchise that you're going to sell their brand as a product. Otherwise, why would you do it? I mean, you don't become a Matco franchisee to outfit your truck with brands from different manufacturers, right? Part of the allure of the franchise name is that brand name, right? I don't know. So anyway, my confusion continues, but so does this article. They had to attend Matco's new distributor training program, which included 60 hours of classroom training and an additional 80 hours of field training. They were required to pay for travel and hotel costs associated with the training. Now that makes sense to me. If the company mandates their attendance at these things, then they've got to reimburse them or compensate them. Again, unless it was part of the original agreement to say they will do it at their own expense. So not being privy to what the original franchise agreement is, that makes sense to me to some degree. They have to lease or purchase a Matco truck with Matco Tools branding and make that truck available for company inspection. How is that in the lawsuit? Dealers have a problem that they had to purchase or lease a truck that said Matco on it? I don't understand this. Again, if you are or have been a Matco dealer, please weigh in. This seems so bizarre to me. Of course you'd have to buy a truck. That's the business. And you're gonna put the Matco branding on it because that's the flag you're flying, right? I don't get this at all. And then it says they have to wear Matco branded uniforms. Yeah, because you gotta, what are you gonna wear? A football uniform? No, I don't get it. And they had to operate a Matco truck only within a company identified territory. Yeah, that's called your route. I don't understand this, how these things are problematic and how they could come up in a lawsuit. And, I'm no lawyer. Maybe if you are, you weigh in too and tell me why you would see these things that seem like they're obvious, that's part of the reason why you buy a franchise. And now these guys are filing a lawsuit because they're complaining about the agreement that they entered into, which I don't get. I mean, it doesn't seem unfair to me. Right? None of this seems unfair to me. But the California courts disagree with me, and they said, no, this is unfair, and Matco, you have to shell out $15.8 million to these 273 complainants. So what this guy Fleming went on to allege was that he and other distributors were treated as independent contractors not eligible for overtime or benefits. Okay. Some other interesting allegations came out during the filing, and the claim that they filed went on to argue that Matco effectively acquired free labor from distributors' spouses. And one plaintiff claimed that Matco made his wife personally liable for operational responsibilities, including inventory and accounting duties, despite not being on their payroll. The spousal plaintiff alleges distributors' spouses are bound by Matco's distributor agreements. How? I don't understand this stuff. So if Matco was doing that, shame on them. Obviously, they shouldn't be doing that, but that seems bizarre to me. And some of this other information I'm reading to you now comes from a website called classaction.org. And lastly, the case claimed that Matco issues distributors loans with excessive interest rates of 10% for the purpose of obtaining inventory and other business expenses. And a quote from the complaint said, not only does Matco illegally require that distributors and their spouses pay for Matco's business expenses, but it also charges illegal interest rates on money it loans to these individuals for such expenses. I would love to read more details about that because that seems weird to me. 10% on a lease or a loan doesn't seem outrageous to me. That's about normal what you'd find for something like a loan that would secure a vehicle or inventory. But if what they're saying is that they were forcing distributors and spouses to pay for Matco's business expenses, well, I don't know. Isn't that the deal when you're a company? I mean, the revenue that you have coming in pays for your expenses. Again, I'd love more details on this. The long and short of it all is this: Matco has to pay out $15.8 million, and that's not a drop in the bucket. That's a significant chunk of change. So where does that money come from? Well, it's going to hit their parent company, Vontier, pretty hard. Now, more money's got to be shelled out. Losing a lawsuit like this jacks up your expenses even more. The public tends to lose faith in you if they know about it. I don't know if this has affected their customer base at all, but it would be weird if it didn't. I just don't know how many people know about this. So please tell your friends, share the information. And if you have any information on this, please chime in, because I'm dying to get details on this, because I did not know about this until I started digging into Vontier a little bit and seeing what they were all about. So I say all this to illustrate why Matco made the decision to become a Milwaukee distributor. They have to lower their costs. They have to increase their profits. It makes sense that a significant product line like power tools would be something they would need to revisit. And I don't know about other tools on the trucks, but there aren't many tools that they have with the Matco branding that are made by a contracted third party. And I don't think to rebrand the Matco, the Milwaukee tools. I think they're selling under the Milwaukee name like Coyle does. But it looks like, the Matco brand is shrinking dramatically, because when you go on a Matco truck, you can already see everything on the truck is either a third-party brand, it's been a rebrand, or it's contracted to be manufactured by somebody else. And away goes another, brand of a Matco tool. And as far as I understand, they're going to have the Matco branded power tools on the truck alongside the Milwaukee ones, but that's just going to kill the sales of the Matco tools. And I'm sure Matco knows that. I think that that's part of their spin to say that they're going to be doing that to give you a choice, but really there's no choice. If you look at my other video of the Matco flyer where I was talking about their 1/2-inch cordless impact, there is not a good comparison between that and the Milwaukee impact, because Milwaukee's hundreds of dollars less, has a way better warranty. You get 3 more years of warranty on the tool. You get at least another year warranty on the battery. And they have a platform unparalleled in the power tool industry. If there's a tool that you need either 12 or 18 volt, chances are Milwaukee makes it. They even have an industrial line of tools that they're selling under their MX battery line. So they're hitting it really hard. And I think that Matco made a smart decision for a lot of reasons. One of them is to gain more customers and to bring on a brand that's going to sell better. The other is they need to increase their revenue and their profits, and that should be a help. And they have to help pay for this lawsuit that they lost. So a lot of things going on. I would love to hear your input. Please comment. Let's talk about this. Let's drag it all out in the open, and we'll see what different opinions are, and try to learn from each other. And again, please look at Torque Test channel. Follow the link that I put in the description. Subscribe to his channel. I don't think he knows me, but tell him I sent you. And thank him for digging as much as he had into this whole issue with Milwaukee, because he has done a great service to the tool industry in general. He is, whether you know it or not, as a consumer, he has helped you. And from a retailer perspective, I certainly know he has helped me tremendously, and my distributors owe him a great debt of gratitude as well. So keep watching the channel, because we have all kinds of new videos coming down the line. More on this as we learn it. Also, we're going to have videos on some flyer drops that are coming out too. So the new flyer dropped in the beginning of October. That video will be up second week in October. So keep an eye out for that. And if you like vintage Snap-on tools, I've got a knock your socks off video that I'm in the process of making. It's a little bit long to make this one, to put it together, because I'm doing a tremendous amount of work on something that I know will impress you. So do me a favor, click down here now to subscribe so that you don't miss any of it. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, use a tool. Don't be one.